Hey guys, I am Megesh Shenoy and today we would be going through error handling in Mulesoft Composer. Finally, one of the most wanted feature is now available. So this is all about me. I am Megesh Shenoy. I am a Salesforce developer with 2+ years of experience. I am also a Salesforce and a MuleSoft certified developer. Recently, I was awarded by MuleSoft with Up and Comers Award. I am also a MuleSoft mentor and an active member of Salesforce Trailblazer Community Forum. Uh, you must be remembering something, right? This was your Mulesoft Composer Flows back then when this error handling feature was not available. It was like a ticking time bomb. Even though Mulesoft Composer was very powerful, but this error handling mechanism was something that was very much needed. There were many people or users complaining that even though Mulesoft Composer was throwing error and the flow was activated, so there were multiple instances that the flow was continuously throwing error, right? Even if it threw error for once, for the next five instances again it would throw error based because of some critical edge cases, right? So right now we do have the error handling available. Yes, we can now handle errors in Mulesoft Composer. Everyone is super happy right now, I feel. So how does it works, right? We all want to know about it. So now handle errors in Mulesoft Composer Flows, and that too it can be from generic to particular type of error. That means that I can make some error handlers particularly where it can handle errors that are thrown by Salesforce or Google Calendar or an Gmail, right? And then based upon configuration set on the error handler component, the error handler would either stop the flow from running or let the flow continue to run even if the error is thrown. So all my mule buddies, they must be have remembering some concept for error handling called on error propagate or on error continue, right? This is very similar to that, although it is not fully same. So this would work for both Mulesoft Composer standalone instances and with Mulesoft Composer Flow installed as a managed package on a Salesforce instance. So yes, so this is the new error handling that is available in Mulesoft Composer. So we have an error handler block. So in this you can see that there are two blocks over here. One is the watch and another is on error. So the watch would contain the connector or the components which you feel that it would throw an error, or based upon past experiences of your Mulesoft Composer Flow usage. So you can put these kind of connectors or elements in this watch, and in the on error it would basically, so whenever an error is thrown from the watch, it would be caught by the on error block inside the error handler. Yes. So the error handler component consists of two blocks as you saw in the picture previous. So one is the watch and another is on error. The watch block would contain the elements which would possibly would throw an error for some use cases or based upon your previous Mulesoft Composer Flow run usage. Then, whereas the on error block would only run if the error is thrown from the elements present in the watch block. Then, whereas the elements present after the element that threw the error would not be executed in the watch block that threw. So basically, it means that if suppose there are five elements in my watch block, okay, and the second element threw an error, so now my on error block, okay, back here would now run, and the last three elements present in my watch block would not be run, right? So this is all about it. Then based upon the configuration set on the on error handler component, the error handler would either stop the flow from running or let the flow continue to run even if the error is thrown. So what it means that, see, after running there is a pick list or a drop down, so we can see that there are two options, continue and stop. So whenever an error is through from the watch block, the on error block would catch the error, and based upon the condition set over here, like I want this error handler, should the on error block would only catch the error that are thrown by Google Calendar or Gmail, or based upon what you have set in the condition over here, it would basically catch the error. Then the after running block would basically contain again two, like continue and stop. So even if the error is thrown, the next element that is present outside this error handler would run, and else the stop, if I select the after running as stop, then basically all the elements that are present after this error handler block would be ignored, and the Mulesoft Composer flow will have the status as failed. And but in the case of continue, the run usage would be saved, the status would be saved as success. Yes. So we went through so many things, right? About on error, then continue and stop. Then no, we need to have some demo about it, right? For good understanding of Mulesoft Composer Flow error handling. So let's start it. So now you see that this is my Mulesoft Composer Flow, and this is the trigger event which would trigger my Mulesoft Composer Flow. That is, whenever a new account is created or updated, then Mulesoft Composer Flow would be triggered irrespective of whatever conditions, right? So over here I can see that this is the newest error handling, that is the error handler block, the which is basically we would be using for error handling in Mulesoft Composer Flow. Now my error handler component contains two blocks inside, which is the watch and another is the on error. So repeating myself, so whichever component would throw error, or you feel would throw an error based upon your previous experiences, so you need to put all those components in here in a logical order. Okay. So right now, if you can see that my watch block contains two elements, that is a Salesforce connector and two Salesforce connectors over here, and one for each block, which would be, now I will be updating a status in my Salesforce org. Okay. And now I have another on error block. So whenever an error is thrown from this watch block, the on error block would catch that error event. And then right now I haven't set any conditions, so irrespective of whichever error is thrown, it would basically catch the error. And I have set after running as continue. So do you remember what I had mentioned previously? So when I select it as continue, then all the components present inside this on error block would basically run, and also the components that are present outside of this error handler block would also run. Okay. And the status of this Mulesoft Composer flow would be saved as success. So let's try it out, right? Right now I would click on test. Okay. So let it activate. I mean, let my test begin for this Mulesoft Composer flow. So if you can see that my test has started right now, what I would do, I already have an account created, which is composer date change field. So basically this is a test account. If we can see right now, I would simply add some value over here, that is demo Mulesoft Composer. Okay. And let me click on the save button and let my Mulesoft Composer flow to detect account was updated and accordingly run. So now if you can see that my Mulesoft Composer flow identified that the account record was updated in my Salesforce EMEA instance production org. Okay. Right now, and see the test has finished successfully. That means that even if through an error, my on error block caught the error event, and then because it was set as after running, so this Slack element was executed, and then a message was pushed to my Slack channel with the error description and error type. Okay. And then because it was an on error type, so the elements that are present outside of this error handler block was basically executed. So if you can see, even this Slack element was executed successfully. So let's move on to my Slack, and if you can see that, see the error description, okay, which because my Salesforce connector in my watch block threw an error over here. See, the attempted operation failed, and because of which my the for each element did not execute because an error was thrown from my Salesforce and connector over here. Okay, and then it move on through the on error block, and then in the on error block I basically sent a message to my Slack channel over here with the error description and error type, and again repeating, because this wasn't continue. After running was set as continue, it did not throw an error outside, and because of which the element that was present outside this error handler, that is the Slack element, executed successfully. So if you can see that, see, max the mule message received successfully, on error continue, and error type. So this was all about your composer on error handler continue. That means the on error handler, okay, on error handler over here was set as continue. Now we would move to my on error stop. Okay, so over here I have set as after running as stop over here. The use case is the flow is almost similar, but the only change that is over here in stop, I have set on error as stop. That means that the element, that Slack element inside of this on error will execute, but this Slack element won't be executed because it is set as stop. Okay, let me click on test, and again we would go through how it would the behavior of this error handler. So if you can see that my test time has successfully started. So all have to do the very same thing over here. This Mulesoft Composer Flow would trigger whenever a new account record is created or an existing account record is updated with no conditions right now. So let me go and change it again over here, on error propagate. Okay, and let me click on save over here. So let my Mulesoft Composer Flow detect that the account record was updated in my Salesforce EMEA instance production org. So if we can see that my Mulesoft Composer Flow has identified that the account record was updated, and we can see the test finished with errors. This error was thrown. Why? Because the after running condition was set as stop. That means that if an error is thrown from the watch block inside the error handler component, okay, it would basically execute the Slack action, okay, and then it would throw an error because the after running is set as stop over here. So you can see this has not been executed, but you can see the tick mark is present over here, right? That means this Slack connector or element was executed successfully. Let's see this in my Slack. Okay, and yeah, so see, so this was the error which was thrown. Okay, and this was my channel name which was set as NTO scooter sales team, and we can see this Slack was executed successfully, but not this element over here, on error propagate error type. So you can see that there is no message in this on error continue but not propagate, which is present over here. So this was all about your stop. Okay, let me now show you how it looks after okay, so the thing is, yeah, the thing is that when I use an on error, that is I have set the condition as stop over here. Okay, after running as stop, then when I activate my Mulesoft Composer Flow, the status would be set as failed. But in the case of on error continue, the status would be set, the status would be success. Why? Because this would basically handle the error, and it would not propagate the error. And but in the case of, but In the case of stop, it would basically run all the elements present inside of this on error block, and then the elements that are present outside the block would not be executed, and instead an error would be thrown. So this is all about your on error propagate and on error continue. That means over here. Okay, so then we move down to the another scenario where you can see that this I have set three error handlers right now. Okay, one is set for Google Calendar, another is set for Salesforce, and the third one is a generic one. By default we need to have a generic on error handler. Why? Because sometimes if suppose an error is not caught by Google Calendar or Salesforce, and even if this is not present, it basically we are not handling the error properly, right? So it would result in it would throw an error. So for that use case we need to have a generic error handler present at the last but not at the first. Why? Because in the order, if suppose this on error block is executed first, then all this block would not be executed, right? So if I put this at first, so 6 and 9, these on error, the error handler for Google Calendar and an error handler for Salesforce would not be executed. So over here this generic error handler would be kept at last. Okay, should be kept last. Now if you can see that this is my error handler, again the triggering point is the very same thing, new or updated account record. This would basically trigger my Mulesoft Composer flow. So over here again I have used the error handler block. So error handler contains two blocks, that is watch and or error handler. So I can have one watch block but I can have multiple on error blocks inside, right? So over here we can see this is a watch and I have three on error blocks inside. Now I have two components over here. One is my Google Calendar and another one is my Salesforce, right? Salesforce. So over here I'm doing the basic operations over here, right? And then this is my on error block, which would I'm now checking that if the error type contains Google Calendar, that means the error was thrown from a Google Calendar connector, then this block would be executed. Else if the error type contains Salesforce, then this on error block would be executed and this would be ignored. If suppose both of them are not thrown by Salesforce or Google Calendar, then this block would be executed, right? And I have set the condition to run this branch as none and after running as continue. That means even if this block is run, it would not throw an error, and the component that is present outside of this block, that is this this Slack connector, would basically be executed, right? So let me test this up right now. I'll click on test, let it allocate some time for testing. So if you can see that my test time has successfully started. Right now let me test my composer flow. Okay, so over here I would again type in something over here, demo Mulesoft error ladder. Okay, I'll click on save. Now let my Mulesoft composer flow detect that the account record was updated. Now again I would go through the flow. So right now this is the triggering point. Then in this error handler I have set as there is a watch block, okay, and an on error block. So right now if we can see that this was the watch block, inside we have an Google Calendar. Now this Google Calendar element threw an error, and because of which this Salesforce connector or the element was not executed. And right now because the error was thrown by Google Calendar, this on error block was executed. So we can see that there is a green checkbox. That means that this Google Calendar invite was sent, okay, successfully, and also a message was pushed to my Slack channel with that Max the Mule message received, Google Calendar error handler. So this was a message to my Slack channel, Mulesoft Composer error handler, and because this error block was executed with the set after running set as continue, so the block that is present outside of this error handler would be executed. So we can see there is a green checkbox that states that this Slack connector or element was successfully executed. So um, because again repeating this error block, the condition was evaluated to true, this on error block was executed, because of which these two blocks were not executed, right? This were basically ignored right now. So we can see there is no green checkbox, that means this was not ran by my Mulesoft Composer Flow, these both of them, right? So in order to check that my Mulesoft Composer Flow successfully ran, let me go to my Slack channel. So this is my Slack channel. So we can see that Max the Mule message received, Google Calendar error handler, and then Max the Mule message received outside the error block. So basically this Slack connector element was executed. With that, this on error block was executed. So we can see that this Google Calendar invite was sent successfully, so that it did not throw an error. So you can see that the green checkbox, and also this Slack connector was executed successfully. So we can see it over here as well, right? So this was all about your Composer on error ladder handler. That means that I can have multiple on error blocks for a single watch block inside my error handler component. So we can see this is my ladder, that means on error ladder, that means one watch block and multiple on error block, whereas the generic error would be present at the last, because if this is present at the starting, then these two on error blocks will not be executed, and the first on error block which gets executed, so my Mulesoft Composer Flow would basically ignore the other block on error blocks that are present after the on error block which was executed, right? So this is all about my Mulesoft Composer Flow on having multiple on error block, okay, for a single watch block, where the on error block can handle events, error events based upon their types, connector types. So in this case I have using it for Google Calendar, this is for Slack, and this is for a generic one. So we'll move down to the last use case, okay, last step of our error handling mechanism, which is having an error handler inside another error handler. That means that, see, this is my error handler and this is my watch block. Now I would basically have my elements which would throw an error inside my watch block. So currently this is the Salesforce connector or element which is present inside this watch block and would throw an error. So when it throws an error, currently I have set the on error as condition set to none. That means it would basically run for each, and it would basically catch each and every error event, and it would execute all the connectors that are present inside. Yeah, so we can see that there is another Slack message over here, and so for certain scenarios, have an error handler inside another error handler. That means that this is my current error handler, and outside error handler, inside this I have again a watch block and on error block. So right now this on error block again contains a connector, okay, or an element, and it element, and then an error handler, again an error handler. Inside the same error handler I again have two blocks, that is a watch and on error block. Then you must be wondering why we need that. So sometimes there would be a business use cases where you need to handle all the edge cases, right? So for those scenarios, sometimes you would be using an error handler inside another error handler. So right now I would explain you how this flow would basically behave or run. So currently again I have set this trigger as new or updated record with object type as account. So whenever an account is created or updated, this Mulesoft Composer Flow would trigger for each and every record irrespective of whatever fields we update currently. Now my watch block, again repeating myself, would contain elements which according to you or would throw an error, okay. Once this Salesforce connector or element throws an error, my on error block would execute. Now based upon conditions, my on error block would execute sequentially. So sequentially, that means first come first serve. That means if suppose I have 5 on error block, the condition that evaluates to true, the on error block condition that evaluates to true first would executed, and the rest all will be ignored. Currently I only have one on error block over here. Now I have set the condition as none. That means that irrespective of whichever error it throws, I would basically run this on error block. And I have set this condition as stop. Because I set the condition as stop, the outside connector block, that is this slack element, would not be executed by my Mulesoft Composer Flow. So now it moves down to this slack element. So in this Slack element, I am sending a message to my Mulesoft Composer Flow error ladder channel that this is the Slack message it should receive. And once it pushes this message to my Slack channel, I would then again there is another error handler inside the on error block. So again we have two elements, that is watch and on error block. Inside watch, again I have a Slack connect not Slack but a Salesforce connector, which would basically update a record in Salesforce, and an on error block. So over here I have set the condition again as none, that is it would execute for each and error event irrespective of whichever element throws. And also I have set it as after running as continue. That means that whatever condition, like whatever error throws, the outside element would be executed, right? So let's test it up and let's check the behavior of this, right? So I'll click on test and let's check. Let's wait and watch what happens, right? Everyone is excited to see the behavior. So according to you, when my Mulesoft Composer Flow would throw an error, okay, over here in this the fourth element would basically throw an error, then we will move on to the on error block, right? And in the on error block, we again have an error handler. This Slack element will be successfully executed, then we will move on to the error handler, right? Again, if this element throws an error, we will be again coming to this on error block. And if we can see that at the status, the after running field is set to continue, right? So according to you, if this is set as continue, this block should be executed, right? Let's wait and watch how this actually behaves. So let me again change the description on error inside another. Okay, I'll basically click on save right now, and let's check how this actually works right now. So let my Mulesoft Composer Flow understand that this account record was actually updated. Let it trigger based on that. So we can see that it's actually recognized that an account record was updated. So we can see that test has successfully executed, right? So let me show up to you. Oh wait, this Slack element was not executed. Why? But the condition is set to continue over here, whereas this was executed. So we can see a green color checkbox, right? Over here it is there, but why did not execute over here? The answer lies above. So because this after running was set as stop, so whatever elements are present outside the error handler would not be executed. So this is the main catch over here, right? So let me try another combination. Okay, I would basically click on edit and change this after running as continue and this as stop, right? Now this would be a bit easy for you, right? Or a bit tricky, because this is set as continue and this is stop. So now you must be thinking that okay, so when my Salesforce connector would throw an error, we would move on to this on error block, okay? And again this Slack element would be successfully executed, and a message would be pushed to my Slack channel with the necessary message over here, okay? Then we will move on to the error handler block again. Then we will again execute the connector or the elements present inside of this watch block. And again my Salesforce connector would throw an error. my on error block would again catch that yeah, event error event, because any generic, not generic, but it would basically identify and catch each and every error event that is thrown inside by this watch block over here. Okay, the elements present inside this watch block, it would again execute. And because the after running is set as stop over here, so my this this slack element would be successfully executed with the message max the mule demo slack message depth as 2. And this would basically be executed, right? Because the outside element was set as continue over here, so it would not throw an error. And plus the element that is present outside of this on error block would basically execute, right? So let me click on save right now, and let us check how this actually behaves. There is definitely some twists and turns. So we can see that it has successfully saved. Right now let me click on test again. Okay, let's wait for our testing phase to start. So we can see that our testing phase has successfully started. Again, what we will do, we will go back and change the description of this account record. Let me click as continue over here. Okay, and let me click on save. Let's wait and wait and watch how this composer flow would basically work, right? So if we can see that my Mulesoft Composer Flow has thrown an error, but why? Because but over here this is set as continue, right? But over here this is set as stop. Because the outside element is set as continue, the error handler is set as continue over here. Okay, this should be executed, right? But it's not the case currently. So basically for both of them to run, we need to set after running condition to continue over here. Okay, so over here this is set as stop. That means that this on error block would execute, but whatever elements that are present outside of this error handler would not be executed. So this slack element is not executed because of it, right? So let me okay, so let me again make both of them as continue, right? So let us test that scenario as well. So click on edit again. Okay, then this is continue. Let me dismiss this error, and I would again click on continue over here. Okay, let me click on save. Okay, and right now let's test this scenario as well. Let me click on test, and yep, let's wait. So if we can see that my testing has started. Okay, my there are like 10 minutes of time allocated for each test phase. Right now again let me go and enter something over here. Okay, inside another, and let me click on save. And till the time, let my Mulesoft Composer Flow basically detect that the account record was updated. So again the very same thing over here. We this Salesforce element would throw an error. We would move on to this on error block. This on error block would catch the error event, post a message to my Slack channel. Again there is another error handler. Again this Salesforce element would throw an error. We would again move to the on error part, right? And then this is set as continue, and we would basically post a message to my Slack channel, right? Let my Mulesoft Composer Flow process the end. If we can see that my Mulesoft Composer Flow identified that account record was actually updated. Okay, we have all the details of that account present over here. Then we move down to this error handler block. Inside this we have the watch block. So whichever components would throw an error, we need to basically put this into this watch block. So inside this watch block I can see that this Salesforce connector threw an error, and because of which this on error block was executed. If my MuleSoft, if this Salesforce connector, okay, had not thrown an error, my on error block would not have been executed, right? So we can see that this honor block got executed, and this Slack message was pushed to my and this message was pushed to my Slack channel. So we can see over here. So this is the message which got pushed to my Slack channel over here. Now we move down to the another error handler inside this on error block. Okay, so in this we again have two blocks, that is watch and another is on error. So in this watch block again we have a Salesforce connector. Okay, right now what it did, it actually executed successfully right now. So because of which, so this on error block got executed, and then again a message was pushed to my Slack channel. So this actually should have thrown error, and this is what the on error block got executed, right? So in the testing phase sometimes it would throw an bug. So currently so we can see that this condition is the condition is set as none, and after running is set to continue, and we have now send a message to my Slack channel that uh, max the mule demo depth 2. Okay, and we can see the same message over here. Now because both of them were set to continue, and so this Slack element outside this error handler block got executed successfully, right? So here we can see outside error handler block, this was actually pushed to my Slack channel. So this is all about from a demo perspective for my for the on error handler, the error handling in Mulesoft Composer currently. Okay, so this is the most surprising part as of now, that the feature is in beta mode. What does it mean? So sometimes it may not behave accordingly, okay, but the Mulesoft team is actually actively working on them, and soon this would be rolled out as a full-fledged feature. Till then, just hang in and everything will be fine, right? So yes. Thank you for watching. I hope you learned something new about Mulesoft and error handling in Mulesoft Composer. Thank you.